when I was meditating on peace, I was reminded of a quote that I heard from Swami. It's from Lao Tzu. Can you be patient enough to allow the mud to settle? And so peace is what is when the mud settles within each of us. And war is when the water is muddied. It is the ultimate expression of human ignorance. War is the ultimate expression of human ignorance. And so it emerges only through the identification with separation consciousness, because there is the delusion of an us and a them. There is the attachment to concept, to idea, that my ideals supersede the ideals of this person, this group. The thing about war is that it requires organization, meaning it has to be a collective effort. There are a group of people who have separated themselves from another group of people. Okay, good morning. So the topic of our reflection is war and peace. And we'll start, as usual, with a little bit of the history of war and peace in the human species. So modern Homo sapiens are about 150,000 years old. Archaic Homo sapiens about 300,000 years old, but there are other human brothers and sisters like Homo erectus. And in prehistory, scientists say there's very little evidence of what we would call warfare. It doesn't mean that there was no warfare, it's just no evidence of it. So approximately 30,000 years ago, some humans drew a battle scene, maybe on a wall in a cave. And so some archaeologists say that it is the first depiction of a war between two groups of people. But then some scientists say, well, actually, it's not a war. It's that human that you think is a human has a tail. And so it's a depiction of humans who are hunting. And they believe that the way that humans use instruments of war started from hunting. So we created early spears and other forms of weaponry to hunt, to eat, and then they really do not know where in human history that weapon was used against another human. There's not like one point in time. There's no answer to that. But they do have some idea about how and why humans war, why they create war against each other. So a few weeks ago, we looked at politics. And so some scientists say that humans warring can only happen when politics exist. So politics, remember, has to do with the distribution of resources, who has access to those resources, which ultimately means who has the most power. And so as humans became sedentary, when we were no longer roaming from this place to this place, and we decided we're gonna stay here and we're gonna practice this thing called agriculture, there was a flourishing of humans. So then cities were created. And so if I'm a band of humans and I notice that those bands of humans have all the food, right? It's about politics. So if I get my band of humans together, we can go and raid those humans and take their food, and then we have access to resources. So they think this is sort of how it started. The first archaeological evidence of this is in the Nile Valley in northern Sudan. 12,000 years ago, they found archaeological evidence of the first major battle that happened over several years. And then, as they say, the rest is history. We can sort of look at our world and how we have built on that war technology, essentially. So weaponry started essentially for human need. We needed to eat. And then as our civilizations expanded, as our brain capacity expanded, so they also have something called the cognitive revolution. Once we were able to get enough nutrients, once we were able to have enough resources in our bodies, our intelligence just sort of took off because the brain requires a lot of nutrients. So once that happened, we could use that brain power to develop more militarization and more technology for weaponry until you have like the amazing Roman armies, and on and on and on and on. So there is no consensus among people who study history on when modern warfare started. Some people argue that prior to 12,000 years ago, this earth was heaven, that there was no warfare at all, that people were killed, of course, like in raids, but there was not organized violence in the way that we witness it. And that early humans like Homo erectus, it didn't exist at all. And then there are others who argue that just because there is no evidence of it in prehistory doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. So this is just one of those things where we don't know. We don't know. It's just a part of being human in terms of where war started. Swami, I'm going to pass a question to you. And it is, what is peace and what is war?
Welcome. It is a joy to be with you. If you are enjoying this content, please like, share, and subscribe. It helps light travel. Great question. And I'm inviting, so as we listen, I mean, just a couple of things. You mentioned politics, and so I think it's important to note that neither Acharya Kashi, nor I, nor Awake Yoga Meditation endorse any particular political party or platform. So what we're sharing is eternal spiritual ideals that apply to all humans. So for today's topic, we're talking about peace and war. And what this means is that these teachings are universal. They apply equally to a person who's working honorably on behalf of peace. And they also apply equally to a person who's serving honorably in the military. And so for each of us as we listen, these teachings are invitations for all of us to live into the spiritual ideal right where we are. So using our talents, using our skill sets, and to help us follow our own inner nature, to help us live in the light of the divine within ourselves. And so I'm grateful to share. This is paraphrasing Swami Yogananda Paramahansa. When people live in the light of the divine, which has no race hatred, no color prejudice, and no political differences, there will be peace. We are all children of God, and we must gather our forces and live up to God's ideal. Wars are the result of ignorance. In war, the victor and vanquished both lose. And in sharing that particular teaching, Yogananda is ringing a bell that has been chimed by many different teachers and many different teachings across the ages. And so one of the things shared by the Buddha, the one who is awake, is that animosity does not eradicate animosity. Only by loving kindness is animosity dissolved. This law is ancient and eternal. In the Yoga Sutras shared by Patanjali, violence is the cause of infinite misery and unending ignorance. And so it's also, I think, important to note, and Kashi and I can go on later and share other scriptures as well, and I'm sure others immediately leap into your heart and into your awareness also. But it's important to note that nobody is recommending animosity. Nobody is recommending violence. And so if animosity or violence arise, they're not saying pretend it's not happening. Right? They're not saying be ignorant and be unaware, but they're saying respond with wisdom, with strength, with skill, with compassion, with understanding, in a way that does not create more animosity. If you are responding to a situation where there is oppression or injustice, respond in a way that does not multiply oppression and injustice. Mm-hmm. So the way that the yogis put this is go to the energy of the solution. Be in the energy of the solution always. And then what happens is we live in this new light. We live in that divine light that Yogananda is talking about. That is our true nature. So the good news is that peace is our true nature. It is our natural happy state. And that's why it feels so good. And that's why it's so distressing if we see humans using their brilliance and their tremendous creative energy to create conflict and aggression and pain and fear. And so for each of us to be in the energy of the solution and to live into that energy, when we live in the energy of love, there is nothing that we cannot face, that we cannot transform as we work together. And so this is the joy, like this is the good news, as we surrender what's not working and we focus on what would work, what would I love to help energize, our lives shift and our experience of the world also shift. It transforms. And we're in the process. We are all in the process right now. The planet is in the process of living into this. So if you are here, you are in this energy of the solution. It's an amazing time to be here.
Thank you, Swami. When I was meditating on peace, I was reminded of a quote that I heard from Swami. It's from Lao Tzu. Can you be patient enough to allow the mud to settle? And so peace is what is when the mud settles within each of us. And war is when the water is muddied. It is the ultimate expression of human ignorance. War is the ultimate expression of human ignorance. And so it emerges only through the identification with separation consciousness, because there is the delusion of an us and a them. There is the attachment to concept, to idea, that my ideals supersede the ideals of this person, this group. The thing about war is that it requires organization, meaning it has to be a collective effort. There are a group of people who have separated themselves from another group of people. I was reading a little bit from the Dalai Lama. His history is that he is from Tibet, and his country was militarized by China. And he talked about how war can desensitize us as humans. He had talked to a soldier, and the soldier told him that the first time that he had to take a life, he felt the discomfort of it within him. And then by the 10th life, it was like another day. And so that is sort of the walk of ignorance. When we are in that pattern of separation consciousness, war feels just like another day. It feels like this is very natural. And it is from the perspective of ignorance. But from the perspective of peace, which is the only true thing, which is our true nature, which is in the heart of even the most violent of humans, there is a well of peace. And so when we are in contact with that peace, just the presence of it helps to bring peace. Just the presence of it. I don't know if this is true or not, but I have heard that there are swamis who just sit and meditate and like give peace to the planet. Like that is literally their job, to just help stabilize the vibrations on this planet. And that work matters. That work matters. That makes it possible for us to come out of the ignorance that eventually leads to warfare. I personally believe that warfare is just one of the most egregious mistakes that we can make as humans. One of the most egregious mistakes that we can make as humans. And it happens again out of our ignorance. And so when we heal that ignorance within ourselves, we make it possible for others to heal that ignorance within themselves. And ultimately, that is what will lead to peace on the planet. Me choosing to do the work within myself. I'm gonna go to the next question because I'm sort of like moving into it. So the next question is, how can a yogi contribute to peace building efforts in your community and in your world? And we can contribute to peace-building efforts by eliminating the seeds of aggression that exists within us. Heal the anger within you. Heal the violence within you. I'm going to heal the violence within me. And so it's each of us doing our part. And in that way, not only are we exuding the energy of peace, but when it is time to speak, we will say the thing that inspires peace in the heart of the other. Sometimes the inspiration is not to speak at all. It's to do a thing that will inspire peace in the heart of the other. It's just sort of like we're portable peace machines. We can be in any place. Whatever shows up, there is peace. And so that is Jesus, when people are throwing things at him, when they are accusing him of being something that he is not. He's just peace. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall inherit the earth. All right, so that is how we can contribute to a peaceful planet. I have here a quote. This is from Mark. This is a scripture from Mark 4:37 through 39. And there arose a great storm of wind, and the waves beat into the boat, so that it was now full. But he was in the hind part of the boat, asleep on the pillow, and he is Jesus. And they awoke him, and said unto him, Master, carest thou not that we perish? And he arose, and rebuked the wind, and said unto the sea, Peace be still. And the wind ceased, and there was great calm. I love this scripture, first of all. I say peace be still to circumstance all the time, but it's really not about the circumstance. It's about what's internal. It's about the reactivity within us that feels less than peaceful. And so that's what the storm in this story is representing. When there are storms that arise within us, peace be still. Heal those patterns. You calm those storms. You have within you that Christ nature. That is the voice of peace within you. Peace be still. And guess what? The storm will quiet. So great is the authority of love. So great is the authority of peace. So great is the authority of wisdom. It's key to know who has the power. Even the disciples, they turn to the teacher. They turn to wisdom. Teacher, the storm is going to devour me. And the teacher within says, peace be still. So in the midst of warfare, turn within to the teacher. Be peaceful within. And this is what makes it possible for us to create greater peace on the planet.
Peace.
Okay. You start this one, Swami.
Okay.
Will there ever be world peace?
So I would say that what you're talking about, the practice, the realization that you're talking about, is the truth for all of us. It is the truth that peace is our eternal nature. And so as each of us turns within and says, I take responsibility for my thoughts, for my feelings, for my experiences, for my responses, and I'm going to exuberantly allow myself to abide in absolute peace. And with great joy, with open-heartedness, I'm going to allow absolute peace to abide in me. Then what happens is absolute peace manifests through us to bless the world. It just happens. We don't have to do a thing. So this energy of absolute peace is the energy, you could call it the energy of the divine, you could call it the energy of supreme love, you could call it the energy of understanding and compassion and joy. It's what's real. It's what's eternal. It's lasting, and it's true. And so as each of us turns within and gives permission for the heart to open and for the Supreme to share through us right where we are, absolute peace is here. We are moving in that current of absolute peace. And certainly our experiences of the world will transform. So I'll say a couple things here because, like the Buddha, for example, he was one of the ones that I was looking at. He says, that if one speaks or acts with a serene mind, happiness follows as surely as one's shadow. So it's up to each of us to take responsibility for creating this serene mind, and then happiness is a byproduct. It emerges naturally from that. He also says this: he abused me, mistreated me, defeated me, robbed me. Harboring such thoughts keeps hatred alive. So he's not saying that humans don't have this experience. He says, yeah, humans have this experience. How would you like to respond? Would you like to respond in a way that keeps the energy of abuse in your energy field and therefore your energy experience? Would you like to respond in a way that keeps mistreatment and defeat and a feeling of being robbed? Would you like to keep that in your energy field? Because if so, you will be moving in that energy. You will be moving in the energy of hatred. It's within your power, within your purview. You are the one who is sovereign over your response. He abused me, mistreated me, defeated me, robbed me. Releasing such thoughts banishes hatred for all time. And so what he's saying is, it's my province to free myself. No matter what the experience is that I have in time and space, if I let go of focusing on the pain, then I open to healing. If I let go on focusing on feeling entrapped by whatever my experience has been in time and space, then I open to the energy of love and joy and freedom and possibility and exuberance. And so I am the one who can allow peace to be present on the planet right now, and nothing outside of me has to change for me to be able to live in a world of peace. I actually have this authority within myself. And this is true, the Buddha is saying this is true for everyone on the planet. That if we are awake to that energy of peace, that energy of freedom, that energy of self-liberation within ourselves, I have the capacity, this moment, this instant, to free myself from pain. And so I'll also just acknowledge that for most humans, there's a process of living into the fullness of this. And so be patient, be steady, be willing. So if you're not feeling the energy of absolute peace this very moment, I am willing to feel the energy of absolute peace. And I'm willing, here's another lovely shortcut, I'm willing to be in love with the flow of peace in my own heart. And just notice how that feels. I notice how it feels to be in love with the flow of peace in my own heart. Be absorbed in being in love with the flow of peace in your own heart. You won't be able to stop noticing how amazing this flow of love and peace feels in your own heart. And then from moment to moment, step by step, you just live in that energy. And what happens is you're laying down a pathway as you live in that energy of peace, as you love that energy of peace, so that you walk a pathway of peace. And this world in which you live becomes a world of peace for you. The more people who choose this, the more this energy is available across the whole planet. And so please know, you were mentioning there definitely are swamis who exude that energy of peace and who anchor that energy of peace on the planet. There are people in many beautiful traditions who exude that energy of peace and anchor that energy of peace on the planet. Know as well that the energy of light is very, very present on this planet right now. So the moment that we say, I'm willing to self-transform, I'm willing to let go of this energy of hatred or anger or conflict or fear or anguish or aggression, I'm willing to live into the energy of being peace on earth. There is incredible, boundless spiritual and energetic assistance that flows to us. And so you strengthen yourself every time you choose to be in this open-hearted energy of peace. And that energy of peace becomes present and available everywhere that you are and around the globe. So where you place your attention and your focus is really potent. It makes an incredible difference.
Thank you, Swami. You know, when I think about the question of world peace, I am reminded of Ramana Maharshi. Somebody asked him this question and he said, are you in the world or is the world in you? And the person was like, what? But I love it because world peace, what is world peace? The world is Maya. The world is an expression of pure consciousness. The world is an opportunity to remember what is true. This is all Leela. It's play. Why are you looking for peace in the play? Look for peace within yourself. If you discover peace within yourself, you have discovered world peace. That is the solution, all right? It's not out here. Any peace you see out here is like a big red arrow pointing to your heart. When we discover it within, that is world peace. Because again, all of this is pure consciousness. It's the unfolding, it's the Leela, it's the play. When we heal the seeds of discontent and duality within ourselves, then there is nothing but peace. There can be nothing but world peace even in the midst of a war, even in the midst of violence. It can be no other way. There's a story in the Yoga Vashista of this demoness. She consumes humans. So she's never satisfied. So she prays to Brahma for 100 years. She performs a penance. Brahma appears to her. She says, Brahma, I'm never satisfied. No matter how many people I consume, no matter how much suffering I create, I just can't get enough. So Brahma says, okay, you focused enough. I'll grant you a boon. What would you like? She says, I want to be a disease smaller than a pin. And in that way, I can consume so many more humans. So her wish was granted, and she was able to devour so many more humans. But she still was not satisfied. No matter how many humans she consumed, there was still this gaping hole of dissatisfaction within her. So she performs another penance. And she goes to the top of a mountain, and she just meditates and meditates and meditates. And Brahma appears. And Brahma says, I'll grant you another boon. What do you want? And she says, I want to be free of craving. I'm done with it. It's no bottom to it. So Brahma tells her, just keep meditating. And eventually, she was free of her craving. And so when we're like connected with duality, when we're playing that game, it's never enough. There are never enough resources. There's never enough ideas. These people don't have the right ideas. These people do have the right ideas. And so it's that energy that creates suffering, that consumes us. And when we heal that within us, which craves, which is never just satisfied. And here's the thing, we will never be satisfied until we connect with what is real, until we connect with love. And so that energy of dissatisfaction is what perpetuates the violence that we witness in the world. It's what perpetuates duality. And so if we meditate, if we focus on what is real, we become free of that. And again, that is what world peace is, because are you in the world, or is the world in you? Can a yogi participate in military actions while still being at peace internally? You can start, Swami.
Okay. So if a yogi must participate in military actions, that would be the way to do it. It would be to be at peace inwardly. And I'll share actually a conversation that happened between the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh and a questioner. And the questioner raised their hand and said, I'm in the military, and I have an inner calling to take a vow of nonviolence. Can I do that? And Thich Nhat Hanh said, if you have this inner calling to take a vow of nonviolence, do it. You will kill less. And so for anyone, wherever we are, whatever way in which we are called to be present and of service in this particular time, in this particular place, we always can choose peace. We can choose what is more peaceful. We can choose to be in the energy of peace no matter what. And so this is true. If you think about, Thich Nhat Hanh gave very specific examples. He said, think about the conduct of an army. It can be conducted in a peaceful manner or in a manner that is not peaceful. And so which manner is it being conducted? That's always the question for each of us, is how am I conducting myself? Am I choosing to move in that energy of peace? And so another way to put this is be very established in the energy of love and respect and goodwill for all beings. The yogis say, be the same to all beings. And then if you find yourself on a battlefield, you will always know how to respond. The divine light within you will respond, and you will be in the energy of love, respect, and goodwill to all beings. You will be in the energy of being the same to all beings. Another way of putting this is, a yogi does not bear enmity in one's heart. And so a yogi understands, like, even if I find myself articulating one perspective and there's someone else articulating another perspective, that person is not my enemy. I have no enmity in time and space. And so to heal within ourselves any feeling of enmity and to remain very steady and stable and established in the energy of love, respect, and goodwill, being the same to all beings, and we will always know wherever we find ourselves how to respond. And it will be true to the light within ourselves. It will be true to the divine within ourselves. That light is present within us every single moment. There's not a moment where we are separate from that light. And so for each of us, wherever we find ourselves, whatever our talents, whatever our skill sets, whatever is in front of us, that's our dharma for right now. And the intention, the invitation for all of us is, I open my heart, I allow the divine to be the energy of love, respect, and goodwill. And the divine will absolutely guide you in that energy of love, respect, and goodwill from moment to moment continually.
Thank you, Swami. This question reminded me of the question from the nonviolence talk that we had. If there's a fly in my kitchen, can I kill it? And Swami said that if you connect with love, if you connect with tenderness and what is most true, you can dispatch of that fly. And so this is what I thought of when I was meditating on this question. And also that if we come from the place that God is the only doer and that it's pure consciousness at play through us. In the Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna, we are responsible for our actions, but not the fruit. It all belongs to God. So the fruit of our actions belong to God, and then we're making the choice. And so any action that we take, whether it's participating in military action or having a conversation with a child or with our parents or taking a walk down the street, if we're doing it with love, if we're doing it with tenderness, if we're doing it connected to what is real, it is that which is playing through us in expressing itself through us, however it is expressing itself through us, which ultimately Arjuna comes to realize on the battlefield. So things have to play out. And if it plays out in the form of pure consciousness, take in the form of a soldier, that is pure consciousness taking the play of a soldier. And the work, if I am that soldier, is to connect to what is real in my role as that soldier, because it's going to play out. This, again, Leela is going to play. It's what's going to happen. All right, last question. Is war ever justified? What if someone or something brings violence to my doorstep? So for this question, I have some quotes. The first is from the Dalai Lama. He says, "Although I am deeply opposed to war, I am not advocating appeasement. It is often necessary to take a strong stand to counter unjust aggression. This one is from Yogananda. He says, to protect one's country and its helpless citizens against evil is righteous action. And this is spoken by Jesus. It's in Mark 13, 7 through 8. When you hear of wars and rumors of wars, do not be alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be earthquakes in various places and famines. These are the beginning of birth pains. So I took this to mean, and I'm so glad Swami is sitting right here next to me so she can course correct me if necessary. I took this to mean that sometimes if violence is brought to your doorstep, it's not wrong to, if you need to fight back. Just like if you got to dispatch that fly, if you connect with love, if you connect to truth, if that is what you are guided to do, it can be honorable. I mean, Yogananda called it righteous action. And then Jesus, he's saying there's going to be wars. That's a part of being on this planet. There will be earthquakes. There will be famines. Don't be alarmed by it. He also says the end is still to come. And I took that to mean the end of delusion, the end of duality, the end of misunderstanding. These things will wash away. For every human who is on the planet, they will realize truth. And again, it's just pure consciousness at play. There's another story from the Yoga Vasishtha that I wanted to share, and I'll close with this. It's the story of Leela. So Leela is the wife of King Padma, and King Padma is dying. She's highly upset about this. So she prays, and Sarasvati appears to her, and she says, I'm just terrified of losing my husband. And Sarasvati says, don't worry, his soul will be with you forever. So King Padma passes, and Leela's like, I don't see no soul. Like, where is my husband? You told me he would be with me forever. So she goes on this journey with the goddess where multiple different lifetimes. One, she's a warrior prince fighting some battle. Another, she's a mom. Another, she's a person in a canoe. All of these different lifetimes. And it's all happening at the same time. At the same time. At the end of the journey, she was right back where she started. And she has this realization, wow, pure consciousness is unchanged. And everything is kind of happening at the same time, but nothing is really happening at the same time. So keep that in mind as we witness this. It's Leela. A whole bunch of stuff is happening at the same time, but pure consciousness is unchanged. It's just a play. And the same way that Leela had to go through her walk to realize that, we're all going through our walk to realize that. And sometimes the play takes the form of warfare. Yeah. Sorry.
Thank you for your answer. So it's a really big question. And one of the things that I want to acknowledge, I was actually moved and maybe even a little surprised to find a response from Thich Nhat Hanh, which basically seemed to say what you just said. And so there was a questioner who said, what happens if compassionate listening is practiced with a person like Hitler? And apparently this did actually happen, that Chamberlain practiced compassionate listening with Hitler, and it made no difference at all. Thich Nhat Hanh implicitly said, am I moving in the direction of nonviolence? Am I doing the best? And it would be violent to allow a figure like that to continue in the way that that figure is practicing violence. And so you get to make a choice in that time and in that place that allows you to do the best that you can. And am I acting with purity of heart? Am I acting with compassion? Am I acting with understanding? And so maybe I'll just bring this full circle. I think talking about World War II, there's probably not a family among us who wasn't impacted in some way. Like, I think everyone had families who were impacted in some way by World War II. And so we all know stories of our relatives and of our ancestors, our friends, our neighbors who served in that particular conflict, and who did it with purity of heart, who did it with nobility, who did it out of respect, who did it to make the world a safer place. And so honoring and respecting that, and also honoring these teachings which say that violence creates ongoing misery. It creates ongoing ignorance. And so we also know the patterns of trauma that come down in our families as a result of war. Like, we also know that firsthand. And we also know, we know now that's in our DNA. Mm-hmm. If we have had that experience in our families, that family DNA comes down to us. And so this is why it's so important for each of us to heal those seeds before violence comes, so that when and if violence comes, we have the ability to choose from a place of self-mastery, from a place of being open to this energy of understanding and compassion, and moving in the energy of nonviolence, moving toward that energy. I also, a couple of people recently have asked about Swami Nityananda, and his life was irrevocably impacted by World War II. So some of you have heard me say, or you know independently, he was born in Berlin in 1935. His parents did not align with the Nazis. And so at age 5, he was sent away for his own safety to a boarding school to southern Germany. And what that means is the last time he saw his parents, he was 5. And it also means that he lived out World War II in a boarding school. So he felt that he was supported by divine love the whole way through. Of course there was also trauma involved. He never talked about it. But of course there's trauma if you leave your parents at age 5. Of course there's trauma if you live through a war in your own country and you're in a boarding school. And then when he was about 10, he was sitting on a hillside and he saw a falling star. He was sitting with a friend. He saw a falling star and he said, "America, I want to go to America." And at about age 11, through the Red Cross, he was adopted. So he was adopted by a German background family and grew up in South Carolina here. The whole way through, he said, "I felt divine love." He never talked about the trauma. But he came to this country, and his new country had just been at war with the country that he came from. There's trauma in that. He's operating in a new language. There's trauma in that. And so the way that he responded to this, he had experienced so much change. It impelled him to go within, to find what is it that is unchanging. And so he was only 19 when he met his guru, when he met Swami Premananda. That's a remarkably early age to meet one's guru and to know, this is my path. This path of the real is my path for my lifetime. This path of peace, this path of nonviolence is my path for this lifetime. And I will also just share Swami Nityananda, the vows that he lived by. He said, peace is only achieved by peace. Peaceful action is what achieves peace. And so for each of us, every year we offer a devotee's prayer. That is in the devotee's prayer. And so for each of us, it's an invitation to live into that. And so what I take it that Thich Nhat Hanh is saying, and the other teachers that you're talking about are saying, is that even if we're not able to live it 100%, am I transforming in the direction of nonviolence? Am I self-transforming in the direction of peace? Am I healing the seeds of anger? Am I healing the seeds of violence? Am I healing the seeds of aggression? Am I willing to let go of the trauma that I experienced? Swami Nityananda never talked about it. The only thing he ever said was, I felt divine love the whole way through. And so what he's demonstrating is each of us has had a different path. Each of us has our own trauma. Each of us has that DNA that comes down to us that carries these human patterns. And for us to not mention the trauma, to just take such responsibility for turning within and for healing it, for knowing divine love was with me the whole way through. Peace is achieved by peaceful means. How may I live that energy of those peaceful means this very moment, in this very lifetime? And with absolute love and gratitude and respect and affection for everyone, for all of the honorable peace activists, for all of the honorable people who serve in the military, for all of the honorable humans who love the energy of peace, gratitude and love and joy. Would you like to add a closing prayer?
Yes, absolutely. Heavenly Father, Mother God, we give such thanks that the keys to peace are within us, that just by turning within, we can connect with that which is unchanging, eternal, totally stable love. By grace, you have made it so. Amen.
And I will silently offer a blessing for peace. So it'll be silent and quick, and I'll mention when it's complete. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Amen.